Do you ever feel like something's just off? No matter how busy you are, no matter how much you're doing, something isn't quite right, and that feeling, it comes from being out of rhythm, because as human beings, we are not designed to live in this artificial world that we find ourselves in. We're designed to live in alignment with something much deeper, much more powerful, much greater than any of us. And the place where you find that alignment, I genuinely believe this, is in nature, not in shopping centres, not in traffic, not staring at a screen, not endlessly scrolling through a load of stuff that you don't need to see, apart from me, but out there, where nature exists, where life is real, because nature cannot and does not lie to us. It shows us the truth of existence exactly as it's meant to be seen. This time of year now, like take a leaf, yeah? So a stick, just a random stick that's been freezing all winter. And then all of a sudden, this incredible structure emerges from it, unfurls and forms a leaf, or millions of them, or you see a flower punching up through the soil after a long, dark, wet, cold winter. Against all the odds, this beautiful flower emerges. And you realise that force, that same intelligence exists in you too. That's creation. That's the fingerprint of God. And when you're immersed by it, surrounded by it, something inside of you starts to wake up. You start to remember. You start to remember that life isn't chaos. It's cycles. Birth, growth, death, rebirth. Because everything in nature moves through that cycle effortlessly. And deep down, you will know, you will remember that you are exactly the same. But in this artificial world, this matrix that we found ourselves in, we've lost touch with that, because there's people or organisations or the matrix itself trying to rush everything, trying to control everything, trying to force everything. And that's why people feel fearful, they feel anxious, they feel lost, because they've been pulled out of the natural rhythm that they were created to live in. And here's the truth. Every great artist, every poet, every inventor, every thinker, every visionary, at some point they went back to nature. Not by accident, but because that's where clarity lives. And that's where creativity is born. Because creativity cannot come from the noise, from the chaos. It comes from stillness, from silence. And nature forces us to be still. It forces us to slow down. It strips everything back. It takes you away from the madness. It reminds you what actually matters. Think about it. When you're overwhelmed, when your head is full of noise, when life feels too much, where do you go? You go to a park. You go and find a quiet place. You sit down under a tree. And you just breathe. You don't go and stand in the middle of the chaos, like in the middle of a shopping centre or in the middle of a city centre. You don't go deeper into the noise, because instinctively you already know where the truth is. Because nature is real and everything else is constructed. And right now we're living in a world that's designed to keep us all distracted. Constant dopamine, constant stimulation, constant fear, constant division, pulling our attention further and further away from what is actually real. But the moment that you step outside of that, the moment that you take your shoes off and you stand barefoot on the grass, the moment that you actually look up and see the stars in the sky, something changes. The noise begins to fade. Your thoughts begin to settle. And in that space, something powerful happens. You begin to hear again. Not the noise, not the opinions, but something deeper. That spidey sense, that guidance, wisdom, truth, intuition, that quiet voice that's always been there but gets drowned out every time. Is that the voice of God? I don't know. But it doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to demand. It's found in the stillness. It's found in the presence of being there in nature. It's found when you step away from the artificial and return to what's real. So, as the weather gets better, don't go out for the sake of it. Don't just go straight to the pub. Stay outside, walk, sit, observe, reconnect, because this world, this natural world, is not separate from you. It's part of you. And the more time that you spend in it, the more you come back into alignment with who you truly are. Clearer, calmer, stronger, guided. So disconnect from the noise and reconnect with what was always there, because that's where you'll find yourself again, and that is where you'll find the solace in this madness that we find ourselves living in.